Welcome everyone and very good afternoon. Today we are going to highlight the features of 18th century literature, and it is one of the vital, most important ages in English literature. Number of reasons. First of all, you see that it covers abruptly 1660 to 1700 AG, and the age is called of what? The age is called of age of enlightenment, age of sensibility, neoclassical age, Augustan age, and the long 18th century. Age of enlightenment. What does it mean? What does it mean by? Can anyone mention that what is enlightenment?
Giving light.
Giving light. For what? For enhancing knowledge, for applying your reasons, for applying your logic, and to be kind as well. And it is also known as Neoclassical age. Some say that it is Neoclassical age, some say that it is 18th century literature, okay? And sensibility, a classical age. Do you have any idea about the classical age? Ancient age? Something else? Okay. One by one we'll discuss. But we'll try to focus on two aspects more. One is age of enlightenment, another is a neoclassical age. What is each? The enlightenment was a moment that brought a change of thought or way of thinking to Europe. You have already mentioned that. When you can lighten the other and light the other, or you can make the people civilized, and the age what brought a change the thought to Europe. Whenever you can apply your reasons, whenever you can apply your logic, and you can pay your concentration deeply. It means of what? It means that you can change your society, your ideas, your thoughts. A number of thoughts are coming nowadays in our mind. From where have we got it? Because of the development of age of enlightenment. It occurred through intellectual discourse via individual publications, correspondence between intellectuals, rulers, and through conversations. What does it mean? It means of what? How you can enhance your intellectual power. The number of ways. Writing something else. Writing something else. Whenever the reader read those things. Another is what? Correspondence. In medieval age, especially in the neoclassical or the age of enlightenment, people started writing to each other, correspondence, writing a number of letters. Through the letters, we have got that they can express their ideas. Now, how we can express our ideas? Through the internet, sending our email or something else. In that time, they try to express their intellectual power by writing correspondence, I mean letters, okay? And even it is another age when in Europe newspaper, periodicals, magazines were published regularly. Why? These played a vital role to enhance your knowledge. How? You know that a single person cannot gather all the knowledge from various sources. But a newspaper, a magazine, a periodical, try to what? Try to cover all the news, all the informations, all the analysis, all the comments. And whenever you get all these things together, you can compare it, you can analyze yourself, and you can enhance your knowledge. This is another reason why it is called the enlightenment. Another, you have seen that through conversation. Conversation happened in different way in that time. It is almost absent nowadays in our country. But it was occurred frequently in our country few years ago as well. You know that in Shahabag, Aziz supermarket, I think all of you know it. Why Aziz supermarket is so much known to us, familiar to us? In 1970s, 1980s, all the writers, prominent writers, went there and they gossiped a lot. They exchanged their ideas from one another and they made some debates. Through the debate, through the exchange, and when you want to share yourself to the other people, you will receive some reaction as well. Through the reception, you may get some new ideas. You can enhance your knowledge as well. You must respond, okay? Don't be like the robot as well in the classroom. Because the age must be enlightened you as well. Okay? So it means of what? Your correspondence, your conversation, your sharing is important in the classroom. Otherwise, I will speak and you will. As an intellectual moment, it called for an emphasis on individualism and reason versus tradition. Reason versus tradition, religion, dogma, and superstition. Why superstitions comes to us? As there is no reason, there is no logic. For example, in our country, after the sunset, you cannot buy any product without money. I mean, so what? With dues. Most of the grocery shoppers try to not any kinds of products, goods. Or worse, we can say that some things we may not try to sell just after the sunset. And even we have seen that if we see one shalik, it's a cause of what? Your vipat, naki, problem. So if you see twice, it's a lucky one, or something else. It's a what? These are the superstitions. And there are some religious dogma, religious what? Misinterpretation, as there is no reason. Okay. Then what? You have seen that another important aspect we have raised, that individualism and reason. Individualism means what? Individualism means that you have to emphasize on what? Your own liking, disliking, your willingness, unwillingness. Even it shows your personality, your taste, your desire may not be similar to me. Why you are thinking that? You are different than the other because of your individualism. And to develop it, you must use of what? You must use your sensibility, your reasons, your logic. That comes when? Through the establishment of age of enlightenment. Enlightenment. Then it was inspired by ideas that came from the scientific revelation that calls for deductive reasoning and rational thought versus blind acceptance of understanding ground in mysticism. You are reading, you are listening some mystic song like Lalan, but there is no scientific interpretation. These are blindness. These are blindness. to some extent, in case of religion, we are blind. We are blind. There is no reason. But when reason comes, when scientific invention come to us, when we can distinguish what is acceptable, what must be rejected. So that is the benefit of age of enlightenment. So is it clear?
Yes, yes.
What is enlightenment? Enlightenment, these things. Then the movement was heavily influenced by the words and the idea of philosophies or the philosophers that published enlightened ideas on how society should be originated and governed. How society should be originated and governed. It means a word. When you will ask yourself the question, you need some logic, reason, and philosophical terms as well. Once Plato says that, how do we know what we know? Whenever we can explore it, we can develop our individualism and we can establish any kinds of philosophy there. Have you noticed it, what he says? How do we know what we know? So it means of what? It means that some philosophical terms. What is philosophy? What does a philosopher do? A philosopher tries to show some logic, reasons. How they have developed this? They try to develop this, applying their deep observation, analytical power, and comparison their ideas with someone else or a number of people. Their behaviors. Whenever you can cross it, whenever you can behave in such a way, you can be enlightened yourself as well. The Enlightenment would bring new political ideologies and it would instigate revolutions in Europe and the Americas. So it's unique. Why it is unique than the other ages? First of all, the Enlightenment is unique for a number of reasons. First of all, it does not really have a beginning or an end. If you ask me, so when it was started, there is no answer. When it will be ended, there is no answer. Why not? Why can anyone answer it? Why it doesn't have any beginning and any
স্যার মাউসটা ব্যবহার করবেন তাহলে
Thank you. Then it doesn't really have beginning or an end. Why? In ancient period we see that Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, they have applied their reasons and some other critics as well. So before them there may have some critics. So it means what? It continued generation after generation. But in 18th century we see that the philosophers, the critics may have made a form how to use it, how to spread it to each and every one. Is it clear?
Yes.
Next we see that it is a moment of intellectual discourse and change in thought that takes up in the 17th and 18th century, but it draws on old ideas championed in the Renaissance and the Protestant Reformation and scientific revolution. So you have seen that in 18th and 17th century there are some terms we have got. First of all, what? Renaissance, then Protestant Reformation and Scientific Revolution. Do you have any idea about Renaissance? What Renaissance is? What Renaissance is?
So the movement is rebirth of
literature. Rebirth of human rights, human freedom, rebirth of your knowledge. I mean, it reverts or reminds all the things which once upon existed earlier age. One example we can say that in Bangla literature we see that Farooq Ahmed is called a what? Renaissance of Muslim literature or Bengali literature. Why? Before the British, Muslim literature was existed in our realm, our country. When British came, we lost it. Then he tried to reintroduce it. That's why he is called a what? He is called the Renaissance, Islamic Renaissance poet. Next, Protestant Reform. You know that in Christianity there are a number of segmentations. Six. More than 300 groups are there. Some follow the Old Testament, some follow the New Testament, some follow anything else. Some don't follow anything else. So what does it mean that? Who protests or who raises their voice against the Christianity or rigidness of the Christianity, they are called Protestant. Reformation means the change, correction, okay? And Scientific Revolution, you know the meaning. And the third one, it was coined by those who lived through it were in history. Next one, its goal. What it aims, you see that, to combat ignorance, superstitions and tyranny with human reason. Tyranny with human reason. Have you ever read the text Uncle Tom's Cabin? Need not read it. You know that when British came here, or when train or rail journey was invented, in that time there were some people who were taken and made them slave, and they use of what? Coal, and they fire. So what does it mean that? You have seen that tyranny is there, autocratic. I mean, whenever a government don't try to show his or her respectness to the interest of the common people, that is called the what? Tyranny. It may be, I am also, whenever I may not accept your ideas, your proposal, all of you are saying that, sir, today we are not interested to present ourselves, or we don't interest to sit for the class test, and I am rigid one. Even I don't try to understand where the problem is. It means what? It is one of the features of tyranny. Is it clear? Next, what? Superstition we have mentioned, and ignorance. Ignorance means illiteracy. Illiteracy. So, their intention, their goal is to awake the people. Awake the people. When you will be awakened, when you will be known that what are your rights. In that time, you can raise your voices. Otherwise not. So, their aim is to remove these things. Next one, the primary targets were religion and a society dominated by Hereditary? Hereditary?
Aristocracy.
Aristocracy. Aristocracy means what? It's a class.
Yeah.
The people who live in the upper class claim that they are the. Once you know that from your grandfather, you may have heard the news. In front of the Chaudhary bodies, Chaudhary Sahibs, no one can wear what shoes. They cannot use an umbrella. Or in the Jamindar's body, you may not enter with his shoes. What does it mean that? This is called a aristocracy. It clearly a class discrimination. One is aristocratic society, another is lower society. In our country, we see who are the aristocrated now, who live in Bonani, who live in Lalmatia, Gulshan. They are considered of what? They are considered aristocratic members. And all the VIPs, either they are educated or not, either they are honest or not, but they are considered
Aristocratic society.
So their regulation is there to destroy the class discrimination. Next one, Enlightenment wanted a society based on meritocracy, or a society where status and success were based in individual merits, innovation and know-how. Even though the Enlightenment targeted religion, this issue is complex. Many Enlightenment thinkers were not atheist or anti-religion, but they did favor more separation between church and state. Until the modern age, we see then, especially in ancient and the medieval age, the priest, the father of the church, they claimed they are the representative of God. They think that what they are saying, everyone are bound to follow it. What does it mean? It means that they try to govern. Even in ancient period and medieval ages, we see the church control the king and queen, the state as well. But the age of Enlightenment, they work against it. They say that no, religion and politics should be separated. Religion and politics, the ruling system of the state must be separated. Okay. Then background of age of Enlightenment, ideas championed. Ideas championed during the Enlightenment had been toasted around since antiquity. However, these ideas were never able to impact any real change because of the lack of power and influence that the common man enjoyed throughout most of history. And feudalism. Feudalism means what? Do you have any idea? Feudalistic society is absent now. Suppose landlords. Okay? Landlords. And 100 years ago also in our country we saw, we experienced that there were some feudalistic areas or landlords as well. So as feudalism fell after the early modern era and the Catholic Church began to lose its control over the state after the Protestant Reformation, it became more possible for challenging ideas to spread and make an impact. So then early philosophers who questioned society and shared new ideas were called what? Called scholastic, and they influenced most Enlightenment thinkers. The Enlightenment also channels ideas of Renaissance, humanity, and Protestantism's emphasize on individualism and separation between church and states. I mean, it's what all the suppression, ignorance, superstitious, religious dogma, and what feudalistic system, to violate this, to abolish this, and the philosophers, the critics, or the some people were trying to work. So these are the background of Age of Enlightenment. Then these are the continuation. There are some philosophers we must mention who changed the society in 18th century. First, you have seen that Francis Bacon. You may have read some essays of Francis Bacon. Have you read?
Yes, sir.
Of his studies, of truth, of marriage, etc., etc. Really, these are very philosophical. You have seen that he highlights where the problem lies and how to solve it. But he doesn't tell that what you should follow. Why he doesn't tell what is beneficiary for you? In of marriage, we have seen that he mentioned that if you get married early time, the number of problems you have to face. If you get married when you are adult, there are some problems. And if you get married when you are aged one, you will face some problem as well. At the same time, he shows the benefits of the marriage as well. But he doesn't tell that what you should accept. Why? Because this is the main features of enlightenment. They encourages you to use your reasons, to use your logic, to use your arguments. So it helps to grow up your individualism. Is it clear? Next one, Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant is one of the major philosophers in that time. Voltaire, you know that Voltaire plays a vital role to change Italian society. He is considered the Renaissance, one of the Renaissance writers in Italian society. Next, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. You may have heard the name of Rousseau. Okay? Hypocrisy of the Enlightenment. Whenever so far we have discussed that the benefits of enlightenment, at the same time we should discuss some negative aspects, hypocrisy of the enlightenment. Whenever you will see that some benefits, you will see there are some drawback as well. No one is completeness or the perfect one. The Enlightenment thinkers promoted ideas of human rights, meritocracy, and equality. But there were a few members of society who did not benefit. You cannot establish the equality in your society. You cannot make all the people, or you cannot totally avoid the class discrimination. For example, if all the dwellers of a city became the mayors, then what would happen? If I give the same much to you, so what's happened? You may have lost your interest. You may not apply your
best. And there will be no competition.
So, this is one of the hypocrisy. Actually, it is quite impossible to establish a society where there is no discrimination. For maintaining the discipline, you must follow some discrimination as well. But major discrimination must be violated. Ignorance cannot be the rights. Ignorance cannot be applied in the society. This is their motto. Next one, slavery. Slavery, well or good against by some, was also dependent by some Enlightenment thinkers. And before that, the number of people were treated as slaves. In our society, in our country, what do we see? When some Western come to our country to visit or their personal purposes, what we are doing? What is our reaction? Our reaction is that we try to give them everything else. Why? Because they're treating you as slave. Now you are not physically slaves, but mentally we are slaves of Western. That is the reason. So Enlightenments, what? To some extent try to make you hegemonized. Slave, mental slave, they grow. They abolishes the physical slaves, but establish the intellectual slaves there, slaverism there. Women also did not really enjoy less misogynistic attitudes post-Enlightenment. What does it mean that? It means that they failed to establish the women's rights equality. I mean, they didn't pay their attention equally on the rights of women. So, in 18th century literature, we can divide into two portions. One is Age of Pope, another is Age of Johnson. Today we are not highlighting the other things, so I think we can repeat. We can just go through the previous one as well. So, can anyone tell that? What are the features of 18th century literature? Enlightenment? Please share yourself. Where it works. How does it change the society? Please share yourself.
We use our logics, our
Yes.
intellectuals.
It teaches, it tells us how to use our logic, intellectual powers and sensibility. Then it also says that how to gain our rights. It says it works against ignorance, against the tyranny, against the superstitious, against the social dogma, and it encourages us to raise your voice against the feudalism, tyranny of Charles, and encourages you to separate the state. I mean, suppose the government system, judiciary system must be divided, separated from where? From church. It encourages us as well to grow up our individualism. Grow up our individualism. That's why it is called Age of Enlightenment. I mean, so it means that it helps us to think ourselves much and much. Okay? And who are the great philosophers? Francis Bacon, Thomas Hobbes, then and
Voltaire,
Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He was born in France. Okay? Jean-Jacques Rousseau. So that's all today. Anyone, any question from your side? From your side, any question, please? No?